All right, so I'll just go through what we'll cover today within the 1 hour. As I say, sometimes it might be like you are drinking from a fire hydrant, like a fire hose, because it might be a lot. But um, I'll try to take it simple as a simple approach so that we can appreciate it. Now, first of all, we'll look at how to do lookup data between two tables. Then we would move into how you clean that data using Power Query in Excel before we then go into building the dashboard. So in building the dashboard, you would look at how do you connect your data to Power BI. Then how do you create a wireframe, write some DAX measures, and then the actual process of creating that dashboard. Now, one of the things that some persons as analysts unfortunately get stuck in is that we're so stuck in doing the analysis, all the work you are doing, that you forget that the real value of that work comes from communicating that data to the stakeholders or the final end users. And that communication, it goes in 3 phases, which is the approach that I usually take, which would be what has happened. So we've done the work in the data. The first question is, what has happened? That's what you are presenting. The next thing you need to then present to the stakeholders is to help them understand, why has it happened? That's the next part. And then the final thing is, what next? So then there is usually a recommendation that would follow any analysis that people make. It's not just sufficient to tell us what has happened. You need to be able to understand, help people understand, why has it happened? And then lastly, what do we do based on what you've told us? But many times, a lot of people just get stuck in the analysis of what has happened without taking it a notch higher into that level of why did it happen, and then making recommendations that will help drive business performance. So that's what we'll be going through in a nutshell. So I will start off with something I worked on recently, which was more like a challenge, and I'll use that more like the brief. So this was maybe a data set that was provided, and I would go through working through this on a gym, like data for people who attend the gym. And then some of the questions that are here, as anyone would say, is, okay, please, we want to understand what is driving our business in this gym. We want to understand which kind of members are the ones that we are making money from. We also want to understand what strategies or pricing models can we put in place that will help us ensure that we continue to drive revenue or continue to drive traffic. What age of people are this? Now, what I would refer to this is more like the business requirements. For those who are more like analysts, business analysts, you would usually have what we refer to as the stakeholder or the business requirements. So the stakeholders will provide you a list of requirements, what they want to see. And that's what you also would do as an analyst when preparing a report. It's important to understand what the requirements of the end user is, and not just to dive into it. So they provided this, and then we're going to go in data to start working on it. Okay. So I'll just pull up the data, the first set of sheets, and then we kick off. All right, so this is the first sheet, which has the name and then the member ID, the first name of the members, and their surname. Now, one of the things that I want to do here is instead of having 2 separate rows for the first name and the surname, we're going to merge the 2 rows, 2 columns, so we just have 1 name. Now, I'll start off with a bit of Excel, then gradually move into Power Query. So if I were then, and please, if there's anyone that can raise, if I'm a bit too fast, you can just raise your hand, and I will try to slow down my pace a bit. Okay. The first, now just do, let's say, I'll just put full name here. Full name is this, and I then want to merge the 2 of them. Now, simple. For those who are familiar with Excel, you could use the concatenate or the ampersand function. So I just want to do that, which would be concat, and then I take the first text. So what it's saying is take the first text, and then comma, and then what do I want to put between? I want to put a space between that space. That's what, just space, and then I take the second character here, or the second text, and I join that. So that gives me the person's full name. And if I double click on this, I've gotten the full name there. That's first one. Now, what I would usually do, because if I might want to, I would convert this to a text instead of leaving it as a formula. Sometimes I would do this because if you leave it as a formula, it would increase the memory use. So every time you open this file, what Excel would do is that it will calculate it, except you then stop it from doing that. Okay, yeah, so it's here, formulas, and then calculation options. So, you know, at the top here is automatic, which means that every time I open this worksheet, Excel will run that formula again. But if I do a manual one, it means that I would need to run it myself. So I'll leave it as automatic, but I will change this to a values. So I'll just copy all of this on proceed, and then I'll change this to value. So I just did Alt ESV, which was to change that to value. So the formula is out. So I can take out this 2 columns. I don't need them anymore. Now, the next thing I want to do is, this is what it just has is the member ID and the name. There is another sheet that has the details of the members, the people who attend the gym. Now, what I then want to do is, that's where there's a lot of work I'll be doing in cleaning. I want a lookup to bring all the details of that sheet into this sheet. And that's where we have the second file here, which has all of these details here. And I want to bring all these details into the other sheet. Now, a common function that we usually would use is VLOOKUP. Some persons use VLOOKUP. My preference is XLOOKUP instead of VLOOKUP, because I think that XLOOKUP is more it's more versatile. But I'll do the 2 of them just to help those who use those functions. So if you were to use for example, the XLOOKUP, the VLOOKUP, what VLOOKUP will say is you are looking up the value on the sheet. So I want to look up, what am I looking up? I want to look up this value, and then where do I want to look up that value? In a table array. So I would go, this is my table array, and I select everything here. Once I select it, it will then ask me, what is the column? Now, one of the challenges that we usually have is that when doing all of this, before now, people would put maybe 1, 2, 3, because that's how you're trying to look up that form. But a better way to then do it is to use the column function. So if you say column, and then you would reference which column you want to return. So let's assume I want to return the age, so let's say the age. So let's use the age, and then I would, close that. Then is it an exact match? So I want an exact match, and I would take that. So what it has done is it has looked up the other sheets and then returned the column that I selected, which is, I selected the B1 column. So this one was the one I referenced here. So what I would then do here is, because if you look at this formula, it's a fixed reference. So I need to make it dynamic. So if I'm going to make it dynamic, what I would do is delete this one, because so it's no longer fixed. And then if I drag it across, it gives me the headers, right? Sorry, okay, I made a mistake here. So I need to fix this one. So I would need to fix this one. Yep. Okay, so fix that one and then pull it across. Okay, so this gives me the headers in that place, in that other sheet. If I take this down, if I double click on this one, it gives me all the values on that sheet. But because I kind of find this a bit, it's not very, you could do this in Excel, but a better way, as I said, is to use the XLOOKUP function. So what I would do is, let me delete all of this, and then using XLOOKUP, which is kind of faster. So if I say XLOOKUP, and then what's the value I'm looking up? I'm looking up this. So what's the lookup array I want? The lookup array is this column. And then the next thing I want to do is, the lookup array is here, and then comma. And then I want to return everything in this table to that sheet. Okay, so if it's not found, I would say not found. And then I want an exact match, 0. All right, so if you see what is done here with XLOOKUP, it spills everything from that table into this one. all I would just need to do, the only challenge with this is if you double click it, because of the nature of the formula, it doesn't allow you to take it down. So what I would do here is control down and then go back to that formula and then just duplicate everything in that row, and it gives me that formula, and everything in that table I have then merged it with this table. So I've done a lookup on the other table, referencing this column here, looking up the value in this column, and then returning everything in the other column. Okay, so once I've done that, I will then just change all of this to a value, so I can then work with this. So with this one, what I've done here is I have first of all merged the names here to give me one name, and then I did a lookup, preferably using XLOOKUP. You could use VLOOKUP, but I use XLOOKUP to bring everything into one table. Now that I have brought into one table, some of the things we see here is that the data itself is not standardized. So you see like this row here, you have 35 years, 30, you have 2, you have NA, you also have some parts that are kind of blank in the data, doing a rough look over it. And what we want to then do is to start cleaning this data. Now, one way you could do that is to use functions in Excel. You could write a function, but another way you could use your data cleansing is to use Power Query, which is a tool in Excel. Okay, so what I would then do is come back here. If I go to data, let me take this out and turn down. So come to data, and then if I click on this from table range. Now, once I click on table range, what it begins to do, it begins to load the Power Query tool. And then it changes, first of all, what it does is it would highlight everything in the data, and then it converts it into a table. So what it will do is create a table. My table already has headers, and then I'm okaying that. So once I've done that, it opens the Power Query tool, all right? So this is the Power Query editor. Now, within the Power Query editor, I can then start cleaning each of the different columns in my data set. And the beauty about this is, now, once you're doing this with Power Query, what it does is, for those who are familiar with Power Query, is that each step you apply when cleaning a data set is saved by the right here. So anytime you have any new data set or any new information that is added to this table, what Power Query will do is that it will apply all the steps that you have done previously in cleaning that data set. Now, part of it is what helps us when using Power Query is that in the Power Query tool, you can see, using from the top here, how many of the rows are valid, how many errors we have, and then how many are empty. And then at the same time, if you look at the top left here, what it does is, if you click here, it tells you the data type in that column. So when you see ABC, what ABC means is that it's a text column. That's the data type, is a text data type. Now, age, for example, is supposed to be a number. So it ought to be a number, which is like a whole number. But because we have some data types here that are text-wise, what it has done is that it has identified that this most likely is a text column. So every other thing here has been done that way. So what I would need to then do is I need to clean this. So to do that, I'll take 2 steps. If I go ahead, so this is the age, and what I would then need to do is come to transform. Okay, so let's use transform and then replace values. So if I am replacing values, first of all, let's say so click on that. So what am I looking for? So what do I want to find? I want to find 30 and then replace it with the number 30. Okay. All right, and that's done. Now for this one here, I could do the same thing here to say remove 35, which is fine. So if I do that one as well, because this pretty straightforward. So that's 35. So you have years, and then just replace it with 35. All right. So now, once that's done, you see the steps are recorded by the side here. The other thing I then need to do is change this, because when I move this data into Power BI and we then need to start writing any formulas, it's important that you have the right data type because that will help us in our analysis. So if I click here and I change this to whole number, okay, so what this data type here is, it's now a whole number data type that is in that column. Okay. All right, it's now a whole number data type that is there. Now, the same thing will come here. Here, you would see that if I click on the filter here, not all the columns are standardized because you see you have basic, elite, you have premium, standard, STD. So what I first need to do is I would replace anyone that is STD and then also standardize the column formats or the format in that column. So to do that, same thing I would just do here would be replace values here and then STD. So I would replace that with standard. Okay. All right, so that's done. I just check that again to see. So that's done, but I see that this one here is still lowercase. Now to change that, what I would just need to do is come here in the transform option, format, and then I would then change this to capitalize each word. All right, and that's done. And I check that. Okay, so that's fine, but it looks like I think there's still some space. So let me just check if I trim it and see if that should, yep. All right, so there was some white space. So I trimmed that and that's done there. So you see the steps I've applied have been saved by the side here. And I will check this column as well. We'll try and do that quickly so that we can move into the next part. Now, in this one as well, we have 2 here, and then you have none of any. And this is supposed to be a numeric field. So as I mentioned, if you click here, it shows you the type of data that should be in that field. But because there's a mixture of text and numbers, what the IntelliSense interface within the engine behind Power Query Editor has done is that it has just turned it to a text and a number. So what I would then need to do is come here, do the same thing. I need to replace values. So I would change this 2 and then change that to 2. Now, for the one that is not applicable, well, the best thing I could do is I could either remove it or I'll just change it to 0. That's what I can do there. So if I do n/a and then change that to 0. Okay, all right, so that's done. And I changed this column as well to a number type. Okay, so I see someone is raising his hand. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
You want to ask a question?
Yes,
Okay.
please. Where you use replace values, if
Yes.
it's just 1 or 2 fields as it has been so far, can we just edit it by just deleting and typing a number directly in there? Does it have any impact? Or do we always have to use replace values? Since it doesn't do automatic for... Okay, well, if it's multiple times, I believe it will do it for every one of them. But if it's 1 or 2 instances as it has been, can we just type in the number there rather than use replace values?
You could do that. That's an option.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do that. So let me see if I have one. Let me see. So if I use here, for example, this one, you will still come to use replace values, but it might just be for that one. So I've already highlighted, so value to find when I clicked on a 0, and then if I just put false there, it replaces that one. Now, there's another option you can use. Sorry, this column is supposed to be Boolean. So instead of ABC, so Boolean means true or false. So I need to change this to true or false. That's what this data type here would be. Now, even though it's not for this class, but there is something else you could do where you have, if you want to add a column, where if you were writing a, like I would say a function, so similar to what you can do in Excel, within Power Query, if you use the what we call it conditional invoke custom function, if you no, not this, it should be this one. Is it this? Yep. So if you use the custom column, you could write a logic. So this is what within Power Query there is the what is referred to as the M code. So the M code is like call it the coding language in Power Query, where you can kind of write some logic and you can do the if this is like this, it would help you clean that. So that way, if it's not just one or two cells that are affected, if there are multiple cells that are affected, you can write that logic in here, and then you run it, and it will create a custom column, which will then clean this column based on the functions that you've written inside here. Okay, but not to get too technical for this session now, so I'll just keep it simple. In this one, I think this is a time, so I'll just quickly change this to time here. Okay, so this is time. I will change this to time. Yep, so this should be time here. Okay, done that one. Let me see, is there any other that I need to do here? So we'll just do that quickly and move on to the next bit. Okay, so I have a few here, which I'll just be quick with here. The simple ones here. So come back here. Let's see, replace values. So this is 5. 0.05, that's 5%. It can be a bit more, you might need to do a bit more than this sometimes, but trying to keep it as simple as possible. Let me see, just check this again. Oh, okay, so I wrote 0.5, so that's 5%. Now, the other thing was, instead of writing it again, what I simply just did was I went back here to this replace values, double-clicked on the function here, and then it opened up what I had done, and I just type it. So sometimes I recall when I initially started learning this, some of the things that I would do would be, I would then try to, what's the word now? I would write another step again in that place. So let me see why it's not, let's see, 5%. Let me try that again. Okay, hold. So let me take out that step quickly. Let's clean this. Let's trim this, please. Okay. Okay, so let's replace the values for 10% first of all quickly, and then I don't want to spend too much time on this. So that's 0.1. Okay, so let's change this back to percentage, and let's see. All right, great. So that's fine. So it's already recognized that value as a percent. So what I would do, save time, because I know we have just about 30 minutes to go. What I can do here is I can just filter these ones out of it so that we don't take too much time here. So I'll do that here. So that take that one out. Then I would change this to a number, whole number. Should it be a whole number? No, I think, okay, no. Let me take it back to decimal. So that would be a decimal number, that's column there. Same thing for this one. That I think I can just do this, replace. So all I just need to do is replace the CA ###, replace it with CA, and we're good on that one. Okay, and then for the non-applicable, let me see how many of these are there. Okay, so this is, let me change this to a date quickly. So this is dates. So you see, because this one throws up an error, I would take a slightly different approach here. So let me cancel this. So I'll do these two together. So I'll highlight this column and this column, and then data type. So the data type, you can also do it at the top here. So I will change this to date. Okay. So in this column, it shows up an error. So when you see the error here, you would see it in Power Query where you see the line here showing that there's an error. Now, what I would just simply do is I can come here and then, so if I'll come to home. Instead of replacing error, I would remove errors. So if I come here, remove errors. Now, if it's a significant number of rows that is impacted, then you might need to look at it critically. But if you look at what it's saying here, it tells me that it's less than 1%. So it might not really be material in my analysis. So I just can come here and then remove the errors. And that takes out that one, and we're good on that side. Here, let me just do a replace. So I just to quickly replace here. on this column. I think that's pretty straightforward there. n/a, and then replace with 0. And the same thing, so I'll change this to a number because that's longitude and latitude. So, so I'll change that there. Then change this one, and I think we should be done with this data set. So once we're done here, the next thing is then we move into how do we connect this data to Power BI. So power not available, and then replace with 0. And then check the data type. It's decimal. And I think that's about it, all done there. Yep. Okay, so we're all good here on this. Now, once I'm done with this, usually, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, where there are errors on the table like this or not available, does it always automatically translate to 0, or is it that you don't have the information? And can that impact your analysis if, for instance, the figure that was not available is actually not equal to 0?
Okay, so if you recall, when I changed, I think it was the date column here. Now, one of the things that you see here is it will tell you how many of the records in this field are valid, how many of them are errors, and then how many of them are empty. Now, where there are errors and you see that the percentage is significant, then it's something you might need to look at and take an extra step in cleaning that data or finding the root cause of that problem. Because if the number is significant, it would impact your data. It will impact your analysis. If the number is not significant, then that's fine. But once you start seeing something that is inching, maybe you have a record, maybe 10,000 rows of records, and then you see the ones that will give an error will be like, say, 10%, then it's something you need to look at and find out why are you having this number of errors. Because if you replace it with 0, your analysis becomes faulty. One, if you remove them, it also still leaves room for errors in your analysis. So it's always best for such instances to find the root cause of why you have that many errors in it, and try to tackle it from that point instead of just removing it. But if the numbers are not significant, then you are fine, and it should not impact your analysis materially. All right, so once you're done here, as I said, all of this saves the steps here, and all you simply need to do is close and load. So once you close and load, what it would do is that it would then it would load that into a new table within your worksheet. And if you were doing any other, so that's this now. So if I had named this table within Power Query, that's the name of the table that it will come out in. But because I didn't actually give it, I just left it, it created a name on its own. So I'm fine with that anyway. So all I simply do is save this here. Now, once I've saved this, the next step now is to do your analysis using pivot tables in Excel. But over time, you find that data visualization helps a lot, because what data visualization would do is it provides a snapshot of what is happening in your data to the end user. And it's quicker most times for people to just have a look or a glance at that data, and then they get what you're saying. So we'll quickly move over to Power BI. Now, I would show, this is what we want to try to recreate. I think, yep, so let me pull this across. Now, this was something that I had created while that piece of work. Now, what we want to do here is to, as quickly as possible, create this. Now, I know that we don't have that much time, but what we will try to do is apply the principles that have gone into this development, see how we can replicate that within the time frame that we have. Okay, so let's come back here. And one of the beauty about this is, as I said, I'm an advocate that where you can, try to use the available AI tools, which I will also showcase within this exercise, to see how you can speed up your work and your analysis, so that we don't spend too much time trying to do everything on our own. And that's why you have a lot of the tools, which I will also play around with while we're on this call. Now, I've already brought in that data here, but for the purpose of this call, I will do it again. So let's say I pull this in here, and it's an Excel workbook. Say, so get data, which is where you usually would get your data from in Excel. And then this is I think member ID is a table that I just cleaned out. Open. Now, the thing about it is that, as I said, Power Query is a tool in Excel. In Power BI, you would also find Power Query. So you could actually have done that work that I did previously in Power Query inside Power BI. But for those who may not be users of Power BI, and you just use Excel, it's also handy to understand how that works. So personally, I use it for where I have records. I think there's one I've done recently where you have over about 2 million records, and I can pull all of that using Power Query, being that I don't have any access to visualization tools, and I use that. Now, when you put it into Power BI, what it would do is it will give you a view of what the tables look like. Now, the ones that have a blue headers are the ones that have a table format. That's when we did close and load in Power Query within the Excel environment, it converted that sheet into a table. Now, this is what it is here. The ones that just have that looks like normal, these are just regular sheets, so that's fine here. So that's it here. So I will pick this one here, and then one of the things we usually advise is instead of loading directly, what you do is transform data. For those who are within the data space, you would usually hear things like extract, transform, and load. That's part of the process when you say the ETL process. So you extract the data, you transform the data, and then you load it into whether it's your database or where you are going to move it into. So I've extracted the data from the folder where it is. Then I want to do a transformation of the data. The purpose of transforming the data is just to go through it to see if there are any data quality issues. If there are no data quality issues, then that's fine. I really don't have much there, So I'm not going to do much here because we've already done that data cleansing in Excel previously. Okay, so all I would just simply do here would be close and apply again. So if I close and apply, it would, what it then starts doing is it will start applying the pending changes. Just hold on a bit. It usually takes a while to load this. Depends on your system anyway. If your system is fast, it doesn't take so much time, but I know that sometimes on my system. So it loads that, checks the schema, and then once it's done, okay, so just give it a bit. Once it's done, it loads it, and then we can move into the next part. The next part of it is what we would look at, which is going back to what the business requirements were, because the stakeholders had provided guidelines to say they want A, B, C, D. Now, those are like the requirements. Now, you need to convert those requirements into like a language that you can put into Power BI, and that's what we refer to as the data analysis expression, DAX. So all right, so just before I go, so if you come here to the table view here, so this is my table here. All right, so this is the table here. So I can see that the table has been loaded into Power BI, so that's fine. Now, what I then need to do is I'll come back here to the business requirement, as I mentioned. Now, in the business requirement, what they've asked is they want to understand member segments that bring the most value. They want to understand, to identify price, subscription, or service. Now, they also want to understand maybe like what's the retention or usage or upgrade behavior. At the same time, we are looking at what are the membership types that retain highest retention. Now, normally what you would have as an analyst is you are given the business requirements. My job as the analyst is then to convert this business requirements into a language that I can use to query the database. Now, once I've been able to query the database, converting this into a language that the database can understand, which is more technical, then I can use that to pull out the insights. Because if I were going to maybe an executive, they won't understand when you start writing formulas, but it's your responsibility to be able to, it's my job to now be able to do that. So we'll go back to Power BI, all right? Now, as I said, for those who are not very familiar, this is sort of, I'll say, the new part. So I would do two things. I would do it in two approaches. Approach one is I would write it, some of the queries, and then approach two is I'm going to use AI, like an AI tool, maybe like ChatGPT or DeepSeek, to write the formulas so that we see what the difference would be like. It's quite a lot, but sometimes you can actually be very fast doing that. Now, interestingly, one thing they've added recently is what they refer to in Power BI as the DAX query view. Now, with the DAX query view, what it does is you don't necessarily need to write so I can write a function and then it will help me see what that function would look like before I add it in my into my model. But I won't go into too much detail on that. When I do the version, when I've write the queries with the AI tool, then I will come back to that. So we just stick with time. All right. So if you were to do, for those who are familiar, but if you're not too familiar, let's go into that. So if you want to write a measure, come to the top here, new measure. Now, as I said, we are converting that language into the language tool that we are using, because Power BI is mainly a tool. And then what I would then say is, maybe for the first one, I want to know what the total revenue in the business is. Sorry, I think I jumped something. I'll do that quickly and then come back. Total revenue, and then the function here would just be, I would use a sum function. And you find that some of the things you do in Power BI, some of the functions you write are kind of similar to what you would use in Excel. So it's always good if a person has a foundational knowledge of Excel. It comes in very handy. So this is, what it's asking me is, what is the column name I want to look at? Now, the column name is final price adjustment. So I would come here, fitness. So this is it here. And then I would close the bracket. Now, one of the things that so I forgot to mention was that because I have selected this table, that's where the measure is going to be resident. That measure is going to sit on, that measure is going to be on this table here, but we can always adjust it. So if I enter that, it gives me an idea of what the total revenue would look like. All right. Now, there's something I forgot to mention, which is what we refer to as business understanding. And that's where, as an analyst, it comes in it's very important that we have a knowledge of the business domain, because that's what makes us stand out. Now, where a person doesn't have a knowledge of the business, like they call it domain knowledge, it shows up in the quality of work that we present. So let's say I mentioned, so this is the table here, first of all. Now, after you've cleaned the table, it's important to understand what each of the fields in the table represent. So that way, you have a clear understanding of which field you are using for your analysis. Now, the reason why I can say that is because, to some extent, I already have an understanding of this data. So I won't go through it, which was why I think I just went straight to, where was this one? Final price adjustment. Yes, final price adjustment in it. And I've gone through all of that. So it's not, the data set is not, but where the data set is new to the person, to the analyst, it's important that you go through it. Okay. All right. So I've done this one, and then let's assume I then want to do an analysis of this data. I would try as much as possible, because the next thing we want to go into is wireframing, which is when building your reports, just the way someone building a house would create an architectural structure of what the house would look like. It's also important when you are doing your work to try to also have that at the back of your mind. So let's say I've done the total revenue. The other one I want to add here maybe might be the total number of members. So if I were to do that, so I click on that new measure and then I say total, or let me say, just say number of members. Okay, so number of members, you can use a count. So what you can do is two things. You can do count rows. Okay, so count rows is one. What count rows will do is that it will count how many fields are in the table. That's one. And the only thing about it is it doesn't identify unique values. So in order to be able to identify unique values, so that in case there are duplicates in my reports in the data set, I can use distinct. So I would then do a distinct count. And then it asks me what's the column name I am doing a distinct count of. So the column name will be the member ID. Yeah, so I'm going to use this one here, member ID here. Okay, so I've done a distinct count of the member ID. And if I were to just test it, so I just want to see what that looks like here. I would click on this card. Where is number of member ID? Here, okay, so I see that number of members is 1,996. Okay, all right, so that's fine. Okay. Now, for the sake of time, as I mentioned, I've written a number of these measures down, but I would do the other version which I mentioned earlier. Is I now want to use I'll use ChatGPT, or what's the other one now? DeepSeek to write that measure. So what I've done previously is I've written a bit of a prompt here, which I can dump into it. So let me just get that prompt, and then I will open up that. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so let's use ChatGPT here. Okay. So what I'm saying here is I took the business questions here. I've just taken these questions to say, I've taken these questions here. And then what I've said is use this data set to write DAX questions that will help my business, blah, 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 achieve the underlisted items. Now, what I've also said is assign the measures to the table KPI measure. So I'll need to change this because I've done this previously. So I will change this instead. Let me just get the name of this table. So hold on. So we'll just get the name of the table quickly. So I think the name of this table should be fitness. Okay, fitness member. Can I copy this? I don't think I can, but let's see. So let me just type that fitness _ membership _ let's just see. Okay, analytics _ data set. Okay. Analytics _ data sets. Okay, so that's one. Now, to make it easier for it to do it, what I need to then do is provide a sample of the data. So that way it knows what the headers of the data that I'm trying to work with are, or is rather. So I would, let me see, do I have a small sample size? All right, so what I would do is I would just copy a bit of this. So that way it knows what I'm working with. Okay, so let me quickly copy this. And then I would drop this here. And then let me just save this. So I would load that sample file in, and then while it's running that, let me just see, where is, okay. Come on. I think I used it yesterday. So let me change, let me use DeepSeek instead. Okay, so let me use DeepSeek because I think I used it yesterday, so I've reached my limit there. All right, so let's quickly get this in. All right, so this is the sample file here, and I'll just copy the same thing here. Hold on, let me just get that prompt. Okay, and I'll get that prompt here. It's loading that file, and I'll drop that here. Okay, assign the, I thought I had changed that. Okay. Let me, okay, yep, so hold on. All right, so that's fine here. All right. Okay, so once I drop this here, what it would do is it then goes through the logic and then starts writing a list of all the measures that will be required. Now, once I've gotten all those measures, what I would then do is drop them into the DAX query view. So I need to, okay, I'll give it some time while it's doing that. We'll come back to this. Now, it usually takes like maybe 2 to 3 minutes to write all the measures because what I've done is I've provided a sample of the table of the data set. I've provided what the requirements are as a guideline and then given that prompt. So it will write all of this. Now, normally it takes me, it will have taken me some time anyway to write this, but the beauty of this is within the next, say 2 minutes, it's done. Now, once it's done with all of this, I would then pull this and then another fast part is before now, I would have been writing each of the measures one by one, but with what's this word now? With the DAX query view, I can make some adjustments in that. Okay, so I'll give it a bit of time. Okay, so it's writing that. Okay, so I think I'm done. Still trying to explain all of this. Sorry, let me see who is. Okay, hold on. Let me just. Where is. Okay. Okay, all right. So it's all done here, but now the format in which this is, I may not be able to use it. So I would now take this back and say, write these queries so that I can apply them in the DAX query view, or write this query in the format that I can use it in DAX query view. Okay, all right, so let's do that again. All right, so I'll give it a bit, it's going to run through all of this. So it will reformat the formulas. Let me see, okay. All right, so it will go through all of that. Fantastic. So it's going to rewrite it in such a way that if I copy and paste it into the DAX query view, it would allow me paste it. So I think I need to stop. Okay, all right. Let me leave that so that I'll come back to this while it's doing that. But what we now need to do is, as I mentioned, there is the next concept, which is around wireframing. Now, the wireframe is like the, what I call it, the outline that I'm going to put all that I have built into my dashboard. So it's important that I have an idea, which is where storytelling comes in. I want to be able to tell my users what has happened, why it has happened, and then what we are going to. So to be able to achieve that, what I would do is, let me get a blank PowerPoint. So this is my blank PowerPoint here. Now, some of the things you need to consider are what color do you want for it, and then what's your concept of it. Now, one place that you can easily find ideas for colors when you're trying to build a dashboard would be from this platform. They call it colors.co. It usually gives an idea of maybe like a color combination. So what I personally do is if I come here, I take like the hex code. So let's say I were to use this one. It just tells me what the hex code is, and I copy this and I take it to the environment where I'm going to use it. But given that I already have a color that I think I already had something defined, so I can leave that out and then quickly come back. So let me just get that color, and then we will start off I'll start off creating what my wireframe would look like for this. So just bear with me. I know sometimes it can be a lot, but I'll try my best to trying to condense it within the short time that we have. Okay, so let's get this So hopefully we should be able to build this ASAP. So let me get the color that I used here. All right, so that's fine. Okay, got that. So let's come back here. All right, so I'm going to use the color here for the background, and then we'll quickly design this and move it into Power BI. So that's the design. I'll do that quickly. So format the background. So what's the color that I want to use? So more colors. I had the hex code here. So I just paste the hex code, which I have here. I saved this somewhere else. All right, so this is my background. The next thing I want to do is add a shape. So now in my head, I would have an idea of the layout I'm going to for my and for this. So if I take this, so usually what I would do is I would, by this corner here, I might have my filters, what I would use when trying to select different views in my reports. Then in this case, I kind of created different containers, which I'm going to do here. So here would like for my filters. So I'll just quickly do this here. Okay. So let's get that done. Okay. Okay, so let me just reduce this a bit. All right, so this is, let's change this to white. Change the outline to white as well. Change the outline to white. Okay, all right, so I think I'm done there. The next bit I just want to do, let me just move this a bit to the corner. All right, then I would add a bit of what I call, it's called in UI UX design, it's more like they call it glassmorphism, where you add like a glass kind of design. So I'll just quickly do that here. So let's see. Okay. Okay, so let's get this here. Okay, all right. So color for this is, so I'll do this as white. White, no color. Change the transparency for this to 50. Okay, all right, so I just need to make a slight adjustment in the shape format to increase the length a bit. So let's do 11.91 at the top here. All right, so I think that gives me like a bit of an outline, and then I would quickly run through the other shapes so that I can put this in. How are we doing for time? I know we have about 4 minutes, so I'll try to wrap it up. But we'll try and see if we can create this quickly. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to put my KPIs here, like an overview of my KPIs will be the items that I will put in this container here. So let's do that quickly. So this, I don't want any fill in this. So I can make this 100%. Okay, so no fill. So change this to no fill, change the color outline to white, reduce the thickness. Okay, I think I'll still reduce the thickness a bit, just a bit, so that it's not too heavy. Okay, all right, so we've done that one. Let me just check one more thing and we should be done. Let's see. So, all right, I need to, okay. All right, so okay, so this would be like this. Okay, and I copied this one and I just move it across. Okay. 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 Then, all right, so that's about that. So what I then want to add would be a bit of some headers just to capture what each segment would be, because the idea behind it is to be able to guide the user's eyes so that when people are looking at the dashboard, they have an idea of what each segment kind of represents. So let's put this, okay, so this should be solid white. Okay, yeah, fine. I would put this here, reduce this a bit. Okay, then maybe I'll just add a bit of shadow to it. So come here. You don't necessarily need to do this anyway, but sometimes it just helps because, as I say, when you want to eat food, is how attractive the food looks sometimes that determines if a person will eat it or not. So that's some of the things that goes in trying to create a report that is appealing to people. All right, so I've done that one here. Okay, and then we are almost done here. I think there's just one more thing I want to add to this, which will just be a line, and I should be done with this. Okay. So, all right. So I don't want to spend too much time on because I tend to be a bit finicky for the precision of it, but for the purpose of this, I would keep it simple. Okay. All right. So what I had done in my head was to say, this is the KPI, these are the drivers of the KPI, and then what are the sources of our revenue? So those are things that I had in my mind. So I've put this together here, and then here by the side would just be my filters. So once I have the filters here, let me add one more thing. This is more of aesthetics anyway. So just in case I wanted to put like a contact detail, who to contact within the team, people know who they can reach out to if they have any issue on the dashboard that they need to speak with. Okay, so let's just put the last bit here, and I'll just put a bit of an effect of the shadow here. Yeah, all right. So that's all. And I've created like a layout that I'll put. So here I'll put my KPI cards here. I'll put some other charts that will serve as the drivers. I will put the charts here that will explain how that is impacting our revenue here. And then because in the data set, it was talking about location, I will then also highlight which locations are the ones that generate the most revenue. Okay. All right. So it's 6 o'clock. I will try to complete this within the next, say, 10 minutes mentioned, so that I don't keep us here beyond time. It's already beyond time, though. But let's see how fast we can go with time. All right. So let's go back to Power BI now. All right. So in Power BI, I would come here, which is format your reports page, and I click here. I come to Canvas background, and then I click on this browse here. And this is it here. I open it up here, and then I fit and remove transparency is 0. All right, so this already gives me a layout of what my report is going to look like, where at the top here, I have my KPIs. At the bottom here, I have the drivers of the KPI. And then here, I would then have why. So we'll then have like what is happening that is driving those KPIs or that is driving the revenue. So in this sheet here, primarily what I'm going to be focusing on is the revenue. So let me check. As I mentioned, because of time, I won't go too deep into the DAX bit of it, but I'll pull up a bit of it, as I mentioned, just to serve as a guide. This was okay. Yep. So let's see if I can use this. Okay. So let's just use one of them. I wanted to just copy everything, but let's see. I think I'd done a draft of it somewhere here. Just bear with me. Let's see. Okay. So I didn't save that here. No worries. That's fine. Okay. So if I were to use this one, let's use this for example. I will try not to go too deep because I don't want to get. So if I come to the DAX query view here, and then I paste that here, it will do an evaluation of the different KPIs. And if I run this here, so what this does is it will give me these 3 items. Now, if I then upload this into the model, now for me to upload it into the model, what I need to do is I need to change the format, which is I'll need to write it as a measure. It's a different structure, but as I said, because of time, I don't want to delve too deeply into all of this. But I will just quickly try and see if I can build what I had done earlier. So these are the KPIs I've already created here. And then using those KPIs, what I would start doing is fleshing out the dashboard so that we have a view of it. So the first one is this KPI card, which is a new one that they've added in Power BI, though it's not that new anyway, but to some persons who are not very familiar. So the KPIs, the idea of a KPI is just, it's like a snapshot that shows what is happening. The person can look at it and see what's happening quickly. So at this top here, what I want is number of members. So I would click on that. Now, once I click on it, it goes into this data place here. So that's where you see number of members. Now, what I would then need to do is, if I want to format it, I just come here. So just to format it, there are a few things I need to do so that it kind of makes it look attractive or appealing. That's basically what you want to do in that section there. So we'll do that quickly here. So this is number format. So I first of all will change this to whole number. So I come here, the call out value. I need to change the label, no, not this one. So hold, let's see, it should be okay. Yeah, so number of members. Yeah, so value. All right. So I need to change this to none. And so that changes that here. The other bit I would then do is I want to remove the header. So once I've done one of them, I would copy out the rest of it so that it kind of looks the same. You know. So if I come here, so hold on. So this is card. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, so that's the layout there. No, I don't want that one. Yep, so remove the label. Yep, so I remove the label. Then I will come here to general. I want to add a title at the top here. So I will put that here. So the reason I'm just changing the layout, number of members at the top, and then add a divider, then add a background color. So the background color I want to use is white, and then I'm going to change this color as well. So if I do that, the background color that I used previously was a bit dark anyway. So I can copy the same thing and use that in this scenario. But as I mentioned, you could use this color palette and take a color from here. All you just need to do is get the hex code. Once you get the hex code, fine. Okay. So let's try and complete this one so that we can, I think the other ones won't take so much time. All right, so this is the color here. So let me get the color for that one, for the card background. Okay. All right, so I will change the color value, change the font color. So let me first change the background here. So I'll come here, come to the cards, come to the background. Background color is white. I will change this to black. Okay, and then go back a bit. The what's the word now? I need to change the call out value to the text. So the text is white. All right, so I've changed that to white. Okay. Yep. Then one more thing I need to do is the accent bar. All right, so if I click on this, there's what is referred to as an accent bar, but like the bar between the both of them. So this bar here, if I turn this off, let me just turn it, let me see what color, it's black. So if I do it as a white, yeah, then let me come back here, title, if I remove this, okay. Yep, all right, so I'll just use the accent bar there and we should be good on that one. So let's see. Yeah, all right, so that's fine. Okay, then I would copy this across. So this is the second one. So I just did Control C, Control V. Control C, Control V. I might reduce the size so that it fits into this place. Okay. So this is this one. Delete. Control C, Control V. And then I will do the same thing here again. Okay. All right. So for these other three, what I want to then do is get the total revenue. So I know the average number of members. I want to change this to this one. I'm going to change this to total revenue. So I have the total revenue measure that I've written out. So I'll just add this here and then take this one out. So I just need to change the callout value again. It should be white. Okay, let's undo that. Hold on. Yeah, I see why it's doing that. So let me undo that again. 1 minute. So I will just delete. Let me copy and paste. Okay. All right. So I will take that one out. Let me take this one out. Then add total revenue here. Then change the callout value to white. Okay, and then the other thing I just do is I can copy this and apply it here. Let me see. Should be white here. Wondering why it's going down. Let me just check what's the size of this. This is 20, this is 20. Shouldn't give too much of an issue here. Okay, so let's reduce this a bit. Then, so hold on. Let's see. Okay. All right, so I think I see where it is. Should be here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I will do that here quickly. So average number of average revenue as well. I'll take this one out and then I'll just do that. So it makes it a bit easy. Average revenue. Let's see, average revenue per location. Okay, so do the same thing. It's supposed to be, I think I just change this color to white. Okay. And then I change the value because it's showing everything. So if I change this to none and then change the decimal places to 0. All right, so I think I have that down. And then the last one is the average revenue subscription. Okay, average revenue per subscription. So let's do this one. So I'll take this one out. I'll do the same thing here. So just change the color to white. And we have that one here. So that's all done for the KPIs bit of it. The next bit I will quickly run through in the next, say, 2 to 3 minutes will just be some of the charts that I will put in here. Before I forget, so I'll just add this at the top, which is KPI overview. Or let me see, revenue KPIs. Let me see, revenue KPIs. Okay. So let's put this here. I would reduce this. So what I'm just going to do is move this to the header. Then at the same time, I need to remove the background so that it doesn't, so no background. Okay. So I will take this here at the top. Okay, so I think I can maybe make it a bit slightly bold. Okay. Okay. Let me just reduce this slightly. So it can fit. All right, so that's revenue KPIs there. All right, so the next one, I will do those ones quickly. So this will be the charts for the demography charts, okay? which are more like the drivers. So first of all, I've said what's happening. So I can see that we have 1,998 members. Of those members, revenue, so I'll need to change the headers. So total revenue for those members at the top here, if you're changing that total revenue in terms of the title, if I come here, title, total revenue is this, have the, also this one is average revenue per location. Okay. And I think this one is then the last one is average subscription per member. Average subscription per member. All right. So let me reduce the header a bit. Sorry. Because let me just average revenue per member. Okay. All right. Got that one there. All right. So for this one now, I just want to bring in the distribution of the genders. Okay. So let's just do that quickly. Demography. So that would be gender. Okay. So that's gender here. And then the next thing I need to do is just the count of the members. So that way you get a distribution of count. Number of members. Okay. All right. So this doesn't necessarily look like the one I've done because you still need to do a few other things. The other bit I don't take too much time doing a lot of the designing here. The one I would then do is there's a part of it which talks about the member distribution, because part of the business requirement was to say how many of those members are driving revenue in certain location. Member. So I will take this one. Okay. So that's the member. To membership type. Okay, so membership type is here, and then all you just need to do. So once I clicked on that, it went to the y-axis because I used a stacked bar chart, and then the next one would then be the number of members. Okay. All right. So this gives me an idea of how many members. So if I look at it, how many members are there that are driving this revenue? Because we've said these are, first of all, the number of members, this total number of the total revenue for the members, and then how many of those members fall into the different category of our membership types for the gym. That's what we then have here. For the purpose of time, let me just, I know I'm a bit fast here, but how are we doing for time so far? Okay, any questions?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay. Any other person, just be sure that I know it's a lot to take in. So I know it might be quite as I say, it's quite a lot, but I'm trying to condense it into something that is relatable. But so far, how is it going? Because I know it's supposed to be 5 minutes more before we end it. But is there any question before I just try and round off?
Yes, as in when you're putting these KPIs and now you're starting to visualize, and I'm not able to follow with how you first of all did this demographic, as in how when you chose the chart type. I didn't see how that happened. I could only just see you selecting. It just seems like it's already been pre-programmed. I just pasting it here, but I'm not following exactly how you decide and when you pick the type of chat and why you chose the chat that you've chosen. For instance, I don't know why. I think I have a background understanding, but in this instance, while I'm following you, I'm not able to understand, the
reason behind.
Yes.
Okay.
Your choice.
All right.
Of
Thanks. Thanks for the question. So I will try to backtrack a bit, and then sorry, I think that's a very good question you've asked. But because it's 1 hour, sometimes it's there's a lot going on. So I didn't want to start explaining all of that. Might take quite some time. Now, when you want to decide which chart to use, what you would look at is how best will that communicate the message you are trying to pass across. Now, on the side of the charts here, you have different chart types, right? Now, those, bear with me, let me just, okay. I hope, just bear with me, but I just want to check something. Okay. So just a minute, I want to just edit something here. Okay, so what happens is in Power BI, you would have different chart types. Now, the chart type that you use is driven by how you want to communicate that information to the end user. Now, I know I've shared this before, but let me just do this here so you can see. So I will just, it's a standard, what they call this thing now. Let me Google, bear with me. So I'll just type it when decide the type of charts to use in a report. Now, I want to use this because this is a standard, there's a standard guideline that is really, let me see. Yep, all right. So this is what would form that. So I'll just use this quickly. Where is that? Yep. So, okay. So let me zoom here. Let's see how far I can. Okay, fine. Yep. So if you can see this, usually when deciding on the type of charts to use for any report that we are preparing, there are different options. Now, I was going to use the AI option, but sometimes what I realized that if we don't have a good understanding of the background, you can just use AI without knowing why, because I think there's one AI tool that I have here, which I will show the next few minutes before I round off. Now, when you're doing comparison, that's where you like a bar chart, a column chart. Then if you are doing like a trend over time, that's where you use a line chart. If you are doing maybe like relationships, a scatter chart. If you are doing composition, you are doing a pie chart. So when I used the pie chart, I was trying to show what the composition of the different genders are within the gym, if that makes sense. So if I come back here now, so let's do this again. So this is the donut chart. I want to show the composition of the members in the gym. And I come back here to, I think it's gender self-identified. So what it tells me is that this is first the self-identified, and then I add the values, which would be the number of members. Okay. All right. So what this has done is it tells me what is the distribution of the members in the charts. That's basically what it is, So I've seen that distribution. The next one I want to see is I want to compare, which was why I use this bar chart. I want to compare the different people, the different type of subscriptions in the data. So if I take this one out again, let's remove this, and then I come back here and I take, this is the stacked bar chart. I could use this other one, which is this version of it, but because of the headers, so let me just put the type here, membership type, and then I would then put the number of members here again. All right, so if I put the membership type and number of members, it looks something is off. Number of members. Yeah, hold on. So let me just see. I'm checking the right column. It's number of members and membership type. Yep. Okay, so membership type. Let's do this again. Let me see. Just hold on. Number of members. Okay, and then the membership type. Let me just type in the type.
Oh, this subscription.
Okay, yeah. So this is membership type, and then the membership type, and then number of members. So the reason why I use this is because it's easier for a person to see it and compare. If I use this version, it's a bit, you could still achieve the same thing, but it's just the way the chart would look. So what I'm looking at is the distribution between, I'm comparing how many members form each of the different membership types. So for ease of the person that is looking at it, that's why I use this version of the charts instead of using it. So I'm doing it's like the F version. So you're looking from top to bottom instead of from left to right. That was the rationale behind using this type of charts. Understand? Now, it's the same thinking process that goes into all the other charts that I am going to apply. So I will just bring the one that I've completed, run through it, because I know that this already are much more beyond time, and then maybe just share 1 or 2 tips, and then we should be out of here. Sorry that I'm taking so much of your time. Hold on, let me just pull this across. Okay, so let me run through this quickly. So it's the same idea that the distribution is here, and then the comparison. So if you go back to that chart here where it says comparison, I'm comparing the different members here, which is what is driving this. And then in terms of the discount type, I'm also doing that. So I'm comparing the discount type based on the number of members. So here is what I'm saying. This is my top level KPIs. These are like, this is what is happening. This is why it's happening, kind of. And then like followed here to say, okay, where is revenue coming from? So why are we getting this revenue is what we are saying here. And then the last part is, this is what do we want to do, which is what I have tried to compress. But in a nutshell, that's what drives it. So if you look at this, I can drop the link of this in the chat, so anyone can always go through this, because it's helpful to have this at the back of your mind. Let me drop this here. Okay. All right, that's on the one side. So that's helpful. Then the last bit I was just going to say, which is this one, for those who are who develop reports. I also use this report as a yardstick, as I started using this recently as a way to develop designs for reports, but you can use it to create apps or websites as well, where you then say develop, let me just say, create a gym dashboard that covers the metrics below. So I would copy the same metrics that I provided earlier. Okay, let me just use this. Though I don't have any quantitative numbers now, but it should be able to do that. Okay, okay, it's already even, I've already sent it. So it will run this and then give me like a prototype. So with this prototype, I can then use it to create the sample of what I am building. But as I said, all of that is a guideline that will help. But for the purpose of time, as I mentioned, it's a bit of a lot to take in. I'm aware of that. And really 1 hour, it's fair enough. But what I try to provide is just a background to say, yes, this is how we clean data in Excel. Then you bring it into Power BI, and then can do some work. Now, in the next 12 weeks, so I just put that into frame, let's say over the next 12 weeks, I'm going to take time to explain a lot of these. And we will cover the concepts in Excel around how to build reports, how to clean your data in Excel, how to build reports, like build pivot tables, work with logic functions in Excel as well. And then when we are done with that, there's also some part of it that will cover SQL, and then after which we would come into Power BI. So I will send out a form link for all those who will be interested in joining that session, so that way all of this that I have tried to compress within 1 hour, we can condense it into, you can spread it out so that it doesn't look like a lot of information overload that people have to deal with, because I know that it's a lot of information that goes into into this, and I'm not sure 1 hour would cover everything, but it's just to provide that concept, because ultimately, after you've done your cleansing, after you've done your analysis, the most important bit is how do you communicate that information to the stakeholders, which is what is really very, very important. All right, so this is a sample of what is developed. Yeah, great. I think this is a sample of what is developed, which can serve as a guideline when I'm developing my reports. And that was based on the prompt that I provided, and it generated this. And you can use this as a sounding board for what you are developing. Details. If you have questions to ask, I'm more than happy to answer those questions, so that you can be grounded and understand how best to deliver this at work. It's not just for those who are analysts, because I know that everybody deals with data, but also looking at how we can fast track or improve the delivery of what we are doing using AI, because that's what I use at work. And it's been very, very helpful for me in speeding up what I do. Some of the functions that I write, it's not all of it that I have in my head, but I use the AI tools that are available to help me improve my proficiency, and that helps me deliver on what I currently do. Okay, so any questions, any comments before? Thank you very much. I really do apologize for going over time by 30 minutes, but I hope that it was worth the time for all those who have stayed this long. I thank you once again. Any questions before I end this session, before we end this session, or any other comments? Okay, all right. I would take that we're all good. Thank you very much for making our time to be here. I would also try to send this out. I'll try and clean up the recording and then try to do it deep. There are some other videos I've done on this which are on YouTube. But what I can do is, for this one, maybe during the week, I will take a detailed time to go through this. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat. I will use those questions as opportunities to be able to answer some of the things that were not fully covered in this session. So that way you have a deep dive and a clear understanding of what is driving what we're doing in this. And then for the Excel part of it, once we start off, should be starting off next week, we'll be, as much as possible, be very detailed, so that if you need to have a grasp of how to clean data and prepare reports in Excel, you'll be able to cover that. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Do have a great evening again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a lovely presentation. I must say that your pacing and the additional tips and external resources that you've showed us here will give us some insight as to how deeply we're going to be equipped by the time we're done with this course. I'm very interested. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, then. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.